two-dimensional. And so we'll flatten this out into either triangles or rectangles or circles or triangles. So for this one, we have up here up top. So up top here, this is very much sort of a triangle. We can see that triangle coming in, and then that connects to a rectangle. And then from here we have, again, sort of this cylinder, and then from that cylinder we have basically a triangle to the bottom of this vase. So if I was going to sketch this, and we always do this with a center line, so let's just go ahead and put it over here. And I say, all right, and I haven't done the, the measuring part of this in terms of its proportional measuring, but we said we had our modified triangle, or a triangle that's cut off, and then we've got the rectangle, okay, and then from there we've got this we've got this circle. So in fact, it's almost it's almost elliptical. So we might say, well, so sometimes it's a circle, sometimes it's an ellipse. Okay, so we'll use this ellipse for this, and again, we use the center line to check for symmetry. This seems like this is wider than this one on this side, and so we would then go ahead and add a little bit to this side and maybe cut a little bit on this side. Right, and then we said, all right, well then there's and this goes up this way, and then this is a triangle. So the triangle has to, so all these shapes have to be married. They have to touch one another. So this would then be coming down here for the triangle. This triangle, should be in the same angles, and it should be the same distance. So something about like that. And then we've got the base. Now the base actually has a little bit where this kicks out, so it's a reverse, modified triangle. So you put a little bit of that on there for that reverse modified triangle, and this is the schematic drawing of this object. That we've got this, modified triangle here. We've then got, this modified triangle here, again with the point cut off. That comes to there, that comes down to there. We then have, again, of course, our circle through there. We then have our rectangle. Again, all these have to, touch. They're not floating above. They're what we call married, meaning they're going to touch. So if this is my rectangle, these would come out of the corners of that rectangle. And this is the basic construction. Now we'd still have to make this into volumetric. So this would become an ellipse here. This would become an ellipse here. This would become an ellipse. This would become an ellipse. This would become an ellipse. So now we can construct with the 2D shapes. That arcs up a little bit too much. There we go. Or we could do it with 3D shapes. Let's say we're doing the little teacup. And the little teacup, again, is a truncated cone, if we were going to do 3D, and this is a truncated cone, and that's in other words, a cut cone, a cut cone, a cut cone, and then you've got this little, half C curve for this teacup. So again, we've got the cone under here. We've got another cone stacked on top of a cone, and so if we're going to do the teacup and we want to do using volumetric shapes, or in other words, 3D shapes, we'd say, all right, well, we have the top of this thing is a cone that's been cut off. Okay, well that's right, we're using volumetric shape, so it's got to be, okay, so we'd have this here, and then this would get cut off, like so, right, and then we'd say, all right, and then this has another little cone over here that is, in fact, we can bring that, if we need to, we can bring that down and whatever, but we have another little cone right here. This is not symmetrical, and I've got some issues here with the ellipse being a little out of whack, so this would have to turn right through there. Okay, so there. Then this would need to connect there, this would turn there, this would need to connect there. Let's see, we'd also have to make sure that would come there, and we could make sure that one's the same distance as the other. That's why we got issues going on here, is we're not quite symmetrical. But so this would then need to come down to there for that to be symmetrical, and this would come down to here. So this would be our little cone there, right? Like so. And then we have another little cone coming out. So this would be another cone, or conical, if we want to use that word, which means cone-like. So again, then we'd have another little cone there, and this would turn there, and that would turn there, and check it for symmetry and all that good stuff. This looks like this has also got some issues. This is not, that's at an angle, so we'd have to go, okay, right, let's bring this straight across 90 degrees, right? So we'd still have to deal with, symmetry. We'd still have to deal with, getting things to be even and that sort of thing. But it can, these approaches really help when we're doing stuff like this. So we've got, now this is actually a little more open on this side than this side, so we could, I think this is actually more accurate, so we could again make it, when we need to, we can make it more symmetrical. This actually bends out a little bit, so we go ahead and then, once we've got this done, well, then we can go ahead and put in the reverse curve that we've got going on there, like so. And again, if we needed to, we could bring in and use center lines to deal with the symmetry part of this. But we have, again, we have the basics of the little, the little cup, and then we put on, the little handle. This is a little big, but in fact, so let's go ahead and cut it down. There we go. This would then come off of here, and then we'd have a part where the top of this thing would, so this would be the top, and then this is, it bends around, and this is the bottom that then attaches right there, to the, and this attaches right there, and this is where we're seeing the top of it, and then it bends around. This would be a little bit in shadow, and then this is the the underside that then becomes, goes down to the side. But this is the idea for that basic little teacup. If we were doing something, again, we could, this was a little bit more careful than I wanted to be. We have this Perrier bottle. The Perrier bottle, again, has a little bit more, it's cone-like through here. We then have sort of an ellipse through there. We then have another cone through here. And of course, we've got a screw on top. We're going to forget about the screw on top, but we're going to start with those basic shapes. So we said, all right, what do we got going on here? We said, all right, well, first off, and again, we'll just do it a little bit, and then actually I kind of forgot a piece of it. There's a part that's, and we'll start with we have the rectangle. We're going to do this in two-dimensional shapes, and then we have a slight triangle as far as that goes, and then from the triangle we have this again, this sort of, it should be elliptical. This almost looks like an egg shape, and well, actually it is kind of an egg shape. So again, you'll sometimes see these. We've got an egg shape there, and this again is an inverted triangle that's been cut off, and then we've got there's a little at the bottom. It's kind of got its own little triangle that just makes it a little bit nicer as it touches the ground. But this is the basic, again, the basic shape of this guy. There's our egg shape. And I'm looking at this thing off a camera, but hopefully you understand I'm constructing with these very basic shapes so that we get, a better feel for this object, or in other words, we get a better drawing of the object. And if I needed to at this point, if it wasn't quite symmetrical, we could use a mirroring technique. But a construction technique really helps you to get things much more symmetrical, much more easily, again, using our shapes. There's the rectangle for the neck. Now I forgot to say, when I was coming up that this does. Oh, I guess I made mine a little too. The cylinder only comes down like, or pardon me, the cylinder that we made into the rectangle stops there, and I lengthened it. But we have the neck, we have the triangle, we have the egg shape, and then we have the inverted triangle. And then there's another sort of a bending, and we make that into like a little triangle for as it bends around the corner here on the bottom. So if I wanted to modify this the way it should be, that this triangle should come up. In fact, the triangle would probably come outside of this. And if you're using a triangle, always use the center line for where does that triangle point to? You know, where does that triangle? I could go ahead and put the correct triangle on it. This would need to come up. Actually, needs to come up even further, doesn't it? That would be the center line. It comes up to there. So we could change that angle so that this comes all the way up to here, and there's just that little part of the rectangle. Okay, so that's the rectangle. Then we've got this coming down through here as our triangle. Triangle's been cut, of course. Let's go ahead and straighten that out, shall we? So we don't have to use our imagination quite so much. Make sure that it's the same distance on either side. Then we're going to bring this down. There we go, that's better. The first one was starting to break outside of that. So there's a triangle. This was our original rectangle, but that was wrong, so we tried to make this one a better rectangle. This is this one right through here. Okay. As far as that goes. This is then the center line. Like this. This is then our egg shape. Okay, so this is the egg shape coming out. Like there. And then if we take where this egg shape's coming out, again, now we didn't complete the triangle, but we could actually bring this down like so, and you could actually bring that triangle down if we needed to check that our triangle is nice and the same. And then we could even take this right here as another small triangle that we then round once we got the angles, because roundings are really hard. So if we instead make it straight first, turn it into a triangle, and then we need to round it, all we do is we just cut off the edge and it's gone from a triangle to a nice round surface. But this is our Perrier bottle using construction. And so again, when we construct, wow, that really that got dirty really quickly. When we construct, we're only using now again, if you're just getting used to construction, we're going to use either rectangles or triangles or circles. And in the circle family, we have egg shapes. In the triangle family, we have, you know, modified triangles. In the rectangle family, we have rectangles and or squares. In the circle family, we have egg shapes and then ellipses, and then we have circles. And that's how we're going to use it to construct any number of objects. And then remember, once you've constructed it, well, then you come back in and you go ahead and make your nice, beautiful line. Like this would translate, you know, once I've got it roughed in, because that's what this is. It's roughing everything in using these shapes. And then you're going to go ahead and create that lovely curve wrapped around these shapes. This is like the bones of a drawing. So this is sketching, and so this poor drawing. Forgot how dark these can get. And again, this is just so we can see the lines a little better. I would never use this for sketching because these are not the pencils to use. But again, breaking stuff down. Now, we would also do it very, very quickly. So. And that's what I want people to understand, that if they're going to learn how to do this, you need to learn to do it quickly to kind of get it into the gray matter, to have your brain. So you might do, well, let's say I was doing some, you know, let's say we were doing that bottle that's looks like a teardrop. Again, we could say, all right, which is one of the bottles we draw. The other bottle is the Chianti bottle, but we'd say, all right, well, it's basically a rectangle, and then a triangle, and then a circle, and then an inverted triangle, and that's the basic shape of this particular construction. And there's my construction sketch right there. If we did like, you know, like a wine glass, we'd say, well, the wine glass is kind of an ellipse, and then that ellipse is cut for the top, and then we come down, and then we'd come, you know, we'd have a sort of a, it looks almost like a little ballerina skirt, and this is too high of a triangle, but we have this soft triangle for the edge. I think this is curving in too much, so we could bring this, maybe it's a circle that then is onto a triangle that would soften the edges. And then we'd say, well, what if we're doing a pear? Well, pear is just, again, a circle, and then on top of that circle there's sort of a, now we also need the axis line, and then there is a triangle on top of there, and then of course the stem or what have you. But that's the basic idea of, you know, perhaps a pear that's really leaning, and if we had an apple over here, an apple's fairly easy, it's just a circle. You know, couldn't ask for anything simpler than that. You know, so that's our construction of the apple. And if we had, you know, some other sort of you know, if we did something really simple like a shot glass, well, shot glass is just a modified triangle. Boom, there's my construction for it. There's my sketch. So I want you guys to keep a sketchbook and do some sketches breaking objects down into very, very simple objects. It's a really great way to practice, and it will help you draw objects better by deconstructing them into their simplest shapes. All right, and so this is construction drawing and construction drawing sketching, and it's really great to, again, get it into the gray matter. And it's not for great drawing. These are not great drawings. They're just oh yeah, this is the basic construction. And then if I want to make them better, I'd be like, well, my triangle's a little too short, and my triangle is not symmetrical, or this needs to move and that needs to move, and you make it better and better and better and better. And that's the point. So construction drawing and sketching, give it a shot. Really use it. It is one of the most important concepts to use. It is used by more types of artists than any other drawing technique. It is used by fine artists, it's used by illustrators, it's used by concept artists, cartoonists, animators, comic book artists, graphic designers, mechanical designers, you name it. People are using and constructing things using shapes. Now, there was a time where all this was done by hand. A lot of it, of course, is done by the computer, but there's still, you know, a lot of people that will go, well, you know, I can sketch. It's easier to sketch on by hand really quick than it is on the computer, and they'll still do it. And there's some people that do their comps completely on the computer, but, you know, I just want you to know there's still some people. And it's for the thinking process. And if you've ever picked up a book on how to draw dogs or how to draw horses or how to draw people, you've seen construction. If you have somewhere they start with Loomis method, that's a construction method. Riley, that's a construction method. You know, breaking a horse down into rectangles and triangles and circles to get the basic masses, that's construction drawing. And so you use this in all types of ways. You do it for wildlife drawing, animal drawing, people drawing, you know, pet, you know, drawing of birds, drawing of cars, drawing of, you know, you name it. You can, if you use construction, it will help you draw it much, much better. It is one of the keys to the kingdom and learning how to draw. Use it. It will make your drawing better. Just practice and practice. All right. Take care. We'll come back. Have a good one.